I mean, this team is incredible. The job that Dusty May has done, turning this team around, getting into the transfer portal, and maximizing the potential there. It's almost reminiscent to me of the job that Kurt Signetti did at Indiana. Obviously, Michigan was at a better starting point, Michigan basketball, than Indiana football, but they kind of use the transfer portal similarly. They get players that are a bit undervalued. They find them that fit their system, coach them up, and I mean now I don't know how you deal with this team as another team. I know they do have the one loss, but it's hard to deal with this team.
Yeah, I mean the way you deal with them is you're Wisconsin and you hit 15 threes in a game, and it's still a one possession game, but you find a way to knock them off. It's remarkable. They're deep. They play well together. The optionality they have with the lineups where they can go small, they can go super big. They start with three bigs every night. Yaxel Lindeborg, Aymar, and Moritz Johnson Jr. So, I think that if there's one thing I'm struck by with this staff more than anything else, it's the amount of data they absorb and the amount of basketball they watch throughout the year. So, I mean, they're watching games you wouldn't think they would be and saying, hey, you see different trends, you see different kind of archetypes of players, and, well, how can we get that to apply to what we do if we brought in a guy like this or that? So, the tinkering, the data that they gather and that they use, and really, somewhere along the line, and it's mostly been a rival talking point, they've developed this narrative or this label as, being a guy, Dusty May is a portal coach and just builds his team of portal players. And well, that's true. I mean, there are a lot of programs that fire the money cannons at players, and just to kind of do it, to say that they have a high price roster and accumulate talent instead of accumulating pieces. And what they've done a really nice job of is not just, being competitive in the NIL space, but it's finding the right chemical mixture of guys to keep this thing moving forward. And now this year, I mean, they look like one of the teams to beat.
They do, and you hit on the depth piece and the variety, because obviously they're known for that big front that they have, because it's hard to miss guys like Mara and Landenberg and Johnson, who I guess I say it's hard to miss him. I do think he gets lost in the shuffle with those other two, because I'm glad to see some outfits kind of highlighting him, because he does get lost in the shuffle. But man, he does all the dirty work. He does anything that needs to be done. He can play up and back, as far as you can put him or Yaxel at the 3 or 4, and you've got flexibility there. But if you've got those three guys on the floor with Cadeau and whoever else is in there, a Burnett, a Gale, what have you, you've got a ton of firepower on the bench. I mean, I think you could talk about Kaysen. Cheddar is strong off the bench as far as a bench big goes, but the fact that they're bringing McKinney off the bench and he hasn't even fulfilled his potential fully yet is pretty incredible for this team.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty more or less kind of using a 9-man rotation right now, and those back 4 guys, your number 6 through 9 players could probably start for most teams in the Big Ten. Certainly, probably almost all the teams in the bottom 2/3 of the Big Ten. So, there's a shared sacrifice that's there. It also speaks to, you look back at a guy like Nimari Burnett, for example, who, that Michigan State game, he only plays 4 minutes in the second half just because he didn't have it going. Fast forward to a game, and he hits 7 threes and scores a career-high 31 points in a blowout win over Penn State. So you have the ability, you have a roster full of guys that really on any given night, any of them can go off for 20 points or so if they get super hot. And, you'll always have probably 3, 4, sometimes 5 guys who are in double digits. So this can come at you in a number of ways. A guy like Yaxel Lindeborg is kind of a cheat code because he's got the body of a 4-man, but he's basically has a guard skill set when, he can initiate offense but he's also a guy who can go down and get you 12, 14 rebounds. So they've done this 2 years in a row where they found some really, no one thought that Danny Wolf could be a guy who basically looks like a stretch big, just a 7-foot guard, and they turn him into that, and he's a first-round pick. And Axel Lindeborg, may have been a first-round pick if he didn't transfer to Michigan. Now he does, and he just shows off this different skill set that, no one ever saw from him last year playing the 5 at UAB. So, it's a testament to Dusty May. It's a testament to the vision they have, the plan they have for all these guys. And like you said, on any given night, the best team, any given night, a guy can kind of go off and have a signature moment. And we've seen a lot of that this year.
That's the thing. It doesn't even seem like all these guys are necessarily playing at their top potential. That's not a criticism. It's basically a usage issue as far as if there were less bodies out there, less of a rotation, less star players, you would be able to feature some of these guys a little bit more. You would be able to feature Johnson more or get Burnett more minutes. Like you said, he's vacillated back and forth. Gale McKinney's had his big games. So it's a fun team, and it's hard to find the recipe to beat them, because I watched that. I watched that game that they lost, but it seems like that would be even tough to repeat that when they do play again in the regular season and then in the tournament.
Yeah, it's kind of an outlier, right? It's night and like we've seen a lot of games, especially in January. Like Michigan played a lot of its C or C plus type of outings, and at worst, you're winning a game still by 1 or 2 possessions. Where most teams in the country, even the elite teams, like their floor is so much lower than that. So when you can come out more nights than not, and not that they play this way, but when you can just kind of out-talent people, but also you have a group that I think they work incredibly hard. They are non-negotiable in terms of being elite on defense. Like that's been a constant in just about every game this year. When you pack a defense, home, road, neutral court, otherwise, and that's kind of the engine of what gets you going. When you really have it going on that end of the floor, that's when they really start to hum on offense too, because now you're stealing possessions from teams and things like that. So, like I said, it's just they're just kind of this clinical, robotic, and I mean that in a good way, just this machine right now. And I really think the last couple of weeks they've refound that after what was a bit of a rough January.
They did well. They were playing so well. They were blowing out teams, and it was inevitable that they were going to hit the skids a little bit, but they've still been so dominant over the course of the season. It's been a fun team to watch, but we got to take a quick break. I want to cover football a little bit in the second segment, because even though we don't do a ton of football on the show, we got to get your expertise there. And I'm liking the coaching hire. I'm curious how they're doing in the transfer portal. So we'll come back with Anthony Broome. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM.
From the GarbarinoRoofs.com studios in Granville.
Country with a twist. Jethro FM. 1530 AM. WYGR Wyoming Grand Rapids. 94.9 FM Grand Rapids. 99.5 FM Lowell. And Jethro South. 980 AM WAKV Otsego Plainwell. 98.9 FM Otsego. And 105.1 FM Kalamazoo. Available worldwide at jethro.fm.
Coming back here with Anthony Broome, talking some Michigan sports here. Basketball team's doing great. The football team is retooling. Got a new coach in the mix. I'm curious how you kind of saw that coaching search happen, because there were a lot of names rumored, and this happens. I always criticize Indiana fans for this, like with the basketball program. There's all these names that get rumored, and it's all the top names, and they've got to figure out if it's a fit and everything. And who they ended up with, Kyle Whittingham, wasn't necessarily the top name or the first name, but I have to think that this is a good fit, given that the program needs some stabilizing, and he's definitely going to be the adult in the room. And he did a very underrated job, in my opinion, in Utah. So giving him the resources and reputation of Michigan, I feel like this is kind of a home run here.
Yeah, it's tough, because I don't necessarily believe in the home run hire. And when it comes to this whole process that they went through, the hot boards that everyone was putting out, including us, it was Kalen DeBoer and Kenny Dillingham, and it was kind of those guys and then everyone else. And 48 hours after the Michigan job comes open, Kyle Whittingham, and it wasn't related at the time, but he steps down at Utah, and that just kind of winds up being a match made in heaven. And, maybe not the guy that Michigan fans wanted when the search got going, but perhaps exactly what they need in terms of, really when it comes to what they're going to sell, winning the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Like, that's not that much. It's really not any different than what a lot of these guys were sold by Jim Harbaugh's staff, and obviously Sharon Moore's staff the last couple of years. But this is a guy who has 20 years of experience doing it. They've always done more with less at Utah. The Michigan resources are probably going to give them more than they've ever had available to them. So, I don't. The thing is, 66 years old. How long is he going to be at Michigan? Is he here for a long time? Is he here for a good time? I think he's going to have them in the mix pretty quickly here because, like I said, it's not a direct one-to-one comparison. But I could see him having, this Curt Cignetti-like sort of impact on him in terms of, being assignment sound, the physicality, all of those types of things. And, with the resources at Michigan and the Big Ten kind of stepping to the forefront here and winning the last 3 national titles, I think that they're going to be in position to do more of that. So it's exciting. I really like the staff that he brought in, and the player retention was pretty darn good. And I like some of the pieces they've brought in via the portal too. So really just I was impressed by, the 2 weeks that they had in the transfer portal from January 2nd to January 16th. The staff arrived in Ann Arbor on January 2nd. So those guys pretty much did more or less kind of 5 weeks worth of work in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or so. And that to me just kind of goes to show that they're going to, they got a plan. They're going to work this pretty efficiently. And then I don't think it's going to be much of an adjustment. I really don't.
I don't think so either. And that's a testament to him and the program as a whole and everything going on, because it does amaze me with the transfer portal and the season, the way that it happens. This stuff happens so quick. I don't know how these guys manage this where they come in so late in the game, because I talked about this with Fitzgerald coming in at Michigan State when we covered that with the Michigan State folks. And now obviously this happened because of things that happened with the existing coach. You have to bring Whittingham in even later, so he's even further behind the proverbial 8 ball. But it seems like he's been obviously knows how to manage all this stuff. He's far from new, but it's still just late in the game to all of a sudden go, okay, yeah, I'm here, and by the way, here, let me try to call you. But he's done a great job filling that staff out and getting into the portal, as well as retaining a lot of the key players that Michigan needed to retain, especially Underwood.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I think college football's calendar is an absolute joke right now. The fact that you look at, there have been complaints about the calendar the last few years, and then you see next year's calendar, and there's going to be 2 weeks between playoff games, and we're playing games almost till February, and it's just like, what are we doing here? So I think with, everyone's facing the same challenges. Michigan's battle was a little more uphill, given that, let's call it what it is. They were programmed the second that Michigan made a coaching change. You knew there were agents and programs kind of tampering and getting in guys' ears. So I really commend both the players and their families and the folks who kind of had to keep things afloat for a few weeks there on getting these guys to just kind of settle down and play, let it all play out and see what would happen. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult to pull off. And now it helps. The nice thing about when you bring a staff over from elsewhere is that there are always guys, if you lose a couple guys, they're going to bring guys that from their old program and guys that they're connected to from other stops along the way. And, that helped kind of mitigate. Really, I didn't think there were a ton of huge losses for Michigan, but the fact that you were able to backfill, like I said earlier, and bring in what was, a pretty solid portal class when you look, all things considered, and when you look at the positions that they added. Like I said, I thought they not only made a really good use of their time, I thought that they took a couple days into the portal for things really to get going, but I thought that they're a much better football team today than they were when the portal opened on January 2nd.
They're trending up for sure, and it's going to be interesting to watch. I think, like you said, I think this is kind of more like a Cignetti thing, a guy that's got a lot of experience at a higher level than Cignetti did before he got to Indiana, but still a lot of experience, a lot of maturity, a lot of leadership. So it'll be interesting to watch them this year, and we'll be following your coverage here. We'll be sure to have you back on the show to cover the football and the basketball sides of things here, but be sure to tell people where they can follow you for Michigan information, things that might make them mad, and pizza takes.
Well, a lot that'll make you mad. That's both on social media. Just search my name, Anthony Broome. You'll find me. Still holding on to the blue check mark for now. So you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. We're at thewolverine.com as well. Spend a lot of time on our message board. Really take a lot of pride in engaging with our folks who sign up over there, want to be a part of that. It's really, really awesome community to be a part of. So if you're a Michigan fan and you're looking to kind of scratch that itch and social media is a bit too much for you, our message board is the place to go. We'd love to have you. So, and thank you also for thinking of me and having me on. I appreciate it.
Definitely. We'll look forward to having you back on. And this will be a good team to follow here, the basketball team. I'll be going to the Big Ten tournament. I'm excited about that with all the games that they're going to have, and it's going to be a lot of high quality games because they're going to put a lot of people in, or a lot of teams in the NCAA tournament here. So, but we appreciate you joining the show, and we'll look forward to having you on a little bit later here.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Anthony. Talk to you soon.